Hello everyone, my name is Abhishek and welcome back to my channel. Today is day 12 of Python for DevOps series, and in this video we will deep dive into the concept called file operations. So file operations is a very important concept in Python because as a DevOps engineer you might use file operations very frequently. I'll give you some examples so that you understand why file operations are used. Probably you are assigned with a task to update server configuration file when an alert is sent to you or when a metrics is met. So in such cases, you will use the Python file operations. Or there is an application properties file and you are asked to update a field in the application properties automatically. Even in such cases, Python file operations is required. So I'm going to explain both the theory part and we will also write a Python script to update server configuration. And I will show you how to automate this when a particular threshold is met. So please watch this video till the end. Now, before I jump into the video, let me quickly recap and tell you that we have already completed 11 episodes of this series. We started right from the fundamentals of Python. So even if you are a beginner or you don't have any prior knowledge of Python, there is no problem. So if you start with day one of this series, you will learn the basics of Python. And day by day, we started picking up some advanced concepts. So we learned about data types, keywords, functions, environment variables, command line arguments, operators in Python. We learned about conditional handling. Then we started learning about some advanced data types such as list operations, dictionaries, sets, and today we are going to learn about file operations. So every video or every concept that we are learning in this particular series has notes available in the day-wise folders. So let's say if you go to day one, then you will see all the concepts that I have explained in the day one video, which will help you to recap as well as practice after the video, right? So without any further delay, let's get started with today's topic. So I'll move to the whiteboard, right? So first, let's understand what is file operations, right? So basically, when you want to update a file or you want to read a file, okay? So if you want to read a file or if you want to update a file or probably you want to delete a file, in such cases, you need file operations concept in Python. Now you might be wondering, but Abhishek, all these things I can do using shell script also, right? So let's say there is a file, okay, called employees, okay, which has list of all the employee details, right? Now I can simply write a shell script and using this shell script, if you want to update a particular line, I can do that. If you want to delete a particular line, I can do that. Or if you want me to print a particular line, even I can do that, right? So why do I need to learn file operations concept in Python? Because I'm new to Python, I'm scared about learning a new concept. So why should I learn? Of course, this is a very good question. The answer to this is, see, you are a DevOps engineer and you deal with different kinds of systems. Of course, most of the times we deal with Linux virtual machines, but if you are using Azure DevOps or probably you are in an ecosystem where Windows servers are also available, then the shell script that you have written does not work. So what you will need to do is you need to do both shell scripting as well as PowerShell scripting, right? So for Linux machines, you will write the shell script. For Windows machines, you will write the PowerShell script. And what is the result of it? See, you are not just writing two scripts, but you also have to continuously maintain these two things. So to avoid all such things, as a DevOps engineer, or the regular practice for automation is to use Python in such cases. So because our applications can be deployed in Linux machines or Windows machines, right? And I will take one such scenario and I will explain today's practical example, right? But before going there, what are the file operations that are available in Python, which we use the most? So there are two file operations that we use the most. One is read operation. Second is the write operation. So unlike what we do on our Windows machines, right? So usually if you have a Windows laptop, if someone is asking you to uh, read what is in the line number 5 of a file called ABC. So what you will do, simply you will go to your mouse, you will click on couple of buttons, you will open the file, right? Or you will read the file, and then you will tell them what is in the line number 5. Similarly, if someone is asking you on a Windows machine to write a new line or to update a line in the particular file, so they are asking you to update line number 5. So what you will again do, so you will open the file, this time to write something, right? And after that, what you will do is, if you want to update or if you want to add a new line, you will do that, right? So this is what you do in Windows, which is pretty straightforward. But when you are writing a script, so when you are writing a Python script, of course, the process, this is the read process, right? And this is the write process. Of course, this is kind of similar, but here what you need to do is you will use some inbuilt functions, right? So when you are writing scripts, you cannot click on couple of buttons, right? You don't do that. So what you need to do, either you need to write your own functions to read, open a file, or to open a file and write. So because these are very generic operations, right? So opening a file or updating a file, it is not just used by you, it is used by others as well. So Python came up with inbuilt functions, so you don't have to even install packages. So there is an inbuilt function in Python called as open. Okay, so what you need to do to this particular function, okay, so to open a file in Python, what you will do is, this is the syntax. So you will start with as a statement, okay, then you will say open, and this open function takes two inputs. One is the path of the file, name of the file, and second one is, as we are talking here, you will open the file, but your intention is either to read or write. So similarly, to this particular function also, you have to say whether you want to read the file or write the file. So if you want to read the file, give R as an input. If you want to write the file, give W as an input. So what is the syntax to read or write a file in Python? So to read a file in Python, we will use this particular syntax with, probably, let's say, /opt slash Abhishek. Oh, sorry, uh, not this, right? So I need to say with open, inside the brackets, I'll say /opt slash Abhishek, the path of the file. And then if my intention is to read, inside the double quotes, I'll say R colon, and I need to give some spaces, right? Just like we learned about in the definition or in the functions or in the for loop. So you are writing this statement, and then whatever you want to perform in this particular file, you will give some spaces and you will start writing. You will start writing here. Similarly, to write a file, I'll say with open /opt slash Abhishek, and this time in the brackets I'll say W. Okay, so now we learned about basic file operations. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to explain you a task that DevOps engineers does, and I'm also going to show how to write script for this particular task. So first let me explain what is the task. So the task that is given to us is update server.conf file. Okay, so this server.conf can be Nginx, Apache, or any particular server's configuration file. So you need to update a server.configuration file when maximum connections. Okay, so when maximum connections on the server, let's say, is reaching 200, then you need to write a Python script to update the server.configuration file and update this key called maximum connections from 200 to 500. So I have example here. So let's say this is my server.config file. Okay, so in this server.config file, I have different properties of the server, right? So this is the port, this is the maximum connections, this is timeout, this is SSL, this is all the different properties I have for the server configuration. Usually, if you are aware of any server configuration, right? So these are the kind of properties that you have in server config file. Now the task that is given to us is, let's say if this value is 200, okay, the task for me is I need to update automatically, right? So I need to write a Python file which has a function called update server config. Okay, so update server config, there should be a function like this. And when someone calls this particular function, okay, when someone calls the update config function that you have written, so this maximum connections field in the server.config file is automatically changed from 200 to 500. Okay, so let's say this is the task that is given to us. Now let's see how to write this particular thing. It's going to be very simple, right? Only thing is you need to practice this multiple times so that you will master it. Because I've been writing such kind of things a lot of times, you might feel that I'm writing them very easily, but if you repeat or if you practice it, then you will also find it easy. Of course, I have the entire program already submitted to the GitHub repository. So after the class, you can revise. Now let me write this without taking a look at this file so that I can write this along with you. So let's first write the algorithm, right? So that you people will be comfortable. So the algorithm is going to be step one. Step one is read the file, right? And what I need to do when I'm reading the file, I have to store all of the lines in the file in a particular variable, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a variable, or this can be a list or whatever you would like to call it. So I'm going to create a list where once I read the file, that means once I open the file, I will read it and I'll store all of these things into a variable or a list. Then I will again open the file, but this time in the write mode. So here I am opening the file in the read mode, reading everything that is in the file. Next time I am opening the file in the write mode. And what I am going to do is this time when I open the file in the write mode, I am only updating maximum connections line, right? So only update this line which has field called maximum connections. So I'll open the file in the write mode, but I'll not touch any of these lines. My thing is only to update this particular line. So when there is a condition that you have to update only one particular line, what we are going to do is we are going to use the if condition. So if you have watched or followed all the previous videos, you will understand, right, what is conditional handling, why I'm using if condition here, and all the syntax that I'm going to write here is going to be pretty straightforward. Let's start writing. So what I am going to do is firstly create a dummy file here called test.py. Okay. So now inside this file, first I'll start with, as I told you, This is an inbuilt function. What is an inbuilt function? Open is an inbuilt function where you can directly use. So I'm not using any pip installation, or I'm not installing any packages. So firstly, I need to write a function called update underscore server underscore config. And this particular function will receive three inputs. Input number one is going to be file path. Input number two is going to be the property that I have to update, right? I told you that I'm going to update maximum connections, but tomorrow they might ask me to update port number or timeout. So I want to write a generic function. So what is the key to update? And finally, with what value should I update? In the example, I told that I will be updating this particular thing from 200 to 500, but in future that can be 1000, 2000. So better let's use a variable for it. Perfect. So now what this function has to do, first of all, with open, I need to open file called whatever the path that is provided to me. Perfect. And in what mode I have to open? I have to open this in the read mode. Once opened, what I have to do? I have to read everything that is available into a variable, right? Everything that is available in this particular file, I have to read to a variable. So what I'm going to do here is I'll just say lines in the file is equals to. So let's use an alias here with open file path in the read mode as, let me call it as file. So here I'll say file dot read lines. So you might be thinking, Abhishek, what exactly this is? So this is again an inbuilt function. Read lines is an inbuilt function that is available. And what does this do? I mean, inbuilt function on the files object. So what does it do is when you use this particular function, so it will copy everything into this particular variable that you have declared. So technically, now I read everything that is available in the server.config file. Where is this? Yeah, this particular file. I've read everything. Now, as per the algorithm, what is the next thing that I have to do? I have to again open this file with open file underscore path, right? But this time in the write mode. This is an alias I'm creating, right? As file is an alias. And now what I'm going to do is I will read each and every line from this list of lines, right? So I have copied this entire thing into this variable called lines. Now I have to go through each and every line that is available here. So for that, what I'm going to do to read each and everything, we will use concept called loops. So for line in lines, now, okay, I'm in this particular line. Should I update it? No. I'm in this particular line. Should I update it? No. Should I update this? Yes. So how do I understand that? For that, I have to use a condition. So what I'm going to do is I will say here, if key in line. Okay. So what is the key here? Maximum connections, right? So if max connections is in line, then I will say file dot write. Okay. So I am going to update this particular line. So to update, you need to say file dot write. What needs to be written in this particular line? So what needs to be written? So here I'll just say key plus is equals to plus value, right? And I will add a new line character at the end, because each and every line here, if you see, if you go to the server.config file, after each line, the next line is not written here, but it is written here. That means every line has to be written in a new line. So that's why I'm saying key is equals to value plus n. So what is the key here? Key is maximum connections. What is the value here? Value is 600 or 1000, which I'm going to pass. That's it. The logic is very simple. And in the else condition, what I'm going to do? So in the else condition, I'm just going to say file dot write the same line. Okay. Whatever we are reading here, if the condition is met, that is, if the line has something called as max connections, only then I'm updating it. If not, the line is going to be the same. Now I need to call this function. So to call this function, what I'm going to do is I'll just say update server config, and inside the brackets, I'll provide the path to the file server.conf, which we have already stored in the GitHub repository. Then what is the key? Key is max connections. And what is the value? Value, let's say, is 1000. Okay. Now let's try to execute this file and see if it works. Python test.py. Let's move to the folder Day-12, and let me execute this and see. Now program is executed. Let's go to the server.conf. Perfect. Max connections is updated. So this is how you perform file operations. So don't worry, this is a very, very simple program, right? I went little quick because I know that you all are practiced for loops. You all have practiced if else conditions. So that's why I did not stress more on what I'm doing here, because we have practiced them a lot in the previous videos. So if you're finding this parts difficult, then please go through the previous episodes of this series so that you will understand them in an easy way. Perfect. If you want to read the file, the script that I've written with comments, I have already updated that into the GitHub repository under Day-12 folder. Thank you so much for watching today's video. See you all in the next one. Bye bye.